Hello and welcome to season 4 of Talking Tropes, where we break down writing cliches and all your favorite media. I'm David.
And I'm Hannah, and oh boy, do we have a kicker for you today.
Yeah,
Guys, so
a big old
anticipated.
recap of everyone's favorite blockbuster, Tom and Jerry. Well,
Yeah.
there was a little mix up. I tried to watch Tom and Jerry, but instead I got Zack Snyder's Justice League. So uh,
That's so weird
it's
that you say that, David, because the exact same thing happened to me. I
Well, I
tried to
guess we should
watch
just
the.
roll with it with this
Okay.
totally unanticipated conflict. Although I do want to adjust for those of you watching our video podcast, you can see I have our normal talking tropes background on, but I see that
Yeah.
you have a slightly different background. Would you like to describe it for our podcast listeners?
Yeah, so just so everyone knows, that this film and this podcast are being shown in 4:3 format because we really want to preserve Zack Snyder's creative
Right.
vision.
It's not just about preserving Zack Snyder's vision in his films. It's also
Yeah,
about preserving his vision in everyone's films, podcasts, video podcasts, whatever. And in the spirit of that, I probably do need to change my background real
yeah,
quick. So let
absolutely.
me just do that. Okay, that's better.
Better.
Uh, Not quite. This is better for
Oh,
sure, but I
ooh,
don't think it's really his vision. There we
oh,
go.
David, it's perfect. You're a Snyderite now.
Right. The only thing is I need to keep my hands within this space or else I'm breaking the
The
4-3
illusion.
format.
You must only speak like this now.
Keep very still.
It's very WandaVision. Um,
So what about the what's the discourse that you've been seeing so far about the Snyder cut? Because I think, we're going to try and say things that are our personal opinions. We're not going to be objective here. We're going to be very subjective.
yes.
Uh, but I want to kind of address, like, what is the room that we're entering like? What is the chaos?
I mean, here's the thing. I don't really know, because I'm entering into this as a bewildered outsider because
Right.
the only DCEU film that I have watched is Wonder Woman, and that's it. I have watched zero of the other ones, um, and so I had zero context going into this, and I in fact
Sure.
watched we watched both cuts, but I watched Snyder's cut first because it was clearly superior, of course. You want to watch the definitive first so you can slam dunk the other one. But it was an interesting watching experience. So I feel like I'm coming in very backwards to where everyone else
Yeah,
is in this
I think
discourse.
you are, and I wonder to what extent that has on your perception of both films.
Yeah.
But I'm coming into this. I've watched all of the DCEU films, a lot of them more recently now that they've all come onto to HBO Max.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say my favorite is Birds of Prey. Close second is Aquaman. So basically, the two sides of the Bechdel test sort of reflecting each other like a distorted funhouse mirror. Uh,
Yeah.
but I really like the campy upbeatness of Birds of Prey. I also really like the Lord of the Rings scale of Aquaman, and also his broy, douchey stupidness is like a lot of fun as sort of a departure from the self-serious Batman and Superman. Um, but I also do have sort of a soft spot for some of the grim dark DCEU fare. I've watched, the regular cut and the extended cut of Batman v Superman as well,
Damn.
and I've gone in and counted how many horses there are and how many horse shots got added in the extended cut because we know Zach, he love his
He
horses.
loves a horse. There's a horse in this
So
film.
I didn't see the original Justice League in theaters, but I have seen it. and now I've seen this new cut, and I think I probably have a lot of similar opinions to a lot of the tweets that I've seen. Just that you know, the theatrical cut is short, it's watchable, it's consumable in a normal cinematic format, but it is a Frankenstein's monster of a film, and none of the parts work with each other, and you can see all the seams where they tried to sew these two different films together, and that the total excess of the Snyder cut uh, and the like singularly unique vision of Zack Snyder at least makes it more palatable to me, despite its excessive length. I think the excess is sort of what you're coming for in this case.
Fascinating. So I guess I am on the exact opposite side of the discourse then. Because honestly, after watching the Snyder Cut, watching the original Justice League felt like a breath of fresh air. Like it was like, oh my God, thank you. This is like bearable.
Well, so do you think that's mainly just the length, or do you think that the added scenes, because now you can clearly identify which scenes were added, reshot to shoehorn in jokes and subplots? Do you think that those additions are useful for the story? Do they help?
Like sometimes no, sometimes yes is my takeaway. Like
Sure.
there were moments where I thought, yeah, this works and this is fine, and other moments where I'm like, this is stupid. This also could have been left on the cutting room floor.
What do you think that you can say like what your favorite addition was, or your favorite, maybe just we should say our favorite unique scenes to each cut?
I significantly prefer the Flash and the entirety of the Flash's storyline in the original Justice League to the Snyder Cut. And I think that's also true of Cyborg's storyline.
Really? Because
Yes.
Cyborg storyline is cut down significantly, which I can see
Yes.
as a positive just in terms of its, you know, its sheer length and its, you know, how one could get bored while watching it. But I do find that like and there have been some accusations from Cyborg's actor Ray Fisher and from a lot of his Twitter followers that it was sort of, you know, racial, like how so much of his subplot is cut down
But
and
also
just
so much
sliced
of
to hell.
a lot of Barry's is too. Like, you know, there's a whole extra scene in the Snyder
Yeah,
Cut that
yeah,
like
that's true. But the fact that like the through line for both of those is that when you have the scene with Barry, there is a person of color in that scene who is then removed entirely, and then for Cyborg's storyline, his father is nearly removed entirely.
but I think it's a I mean, maybe it is unfair. Like I don't want to invalidate his experience. You know,
Sure.
if he feels that something was racially motivated, it's very possible that it was. I will say, from a writing standpoint, I found a lot of the tropes and cliches that Snyder was leaning on to make the Cyborg story work to be really tiresome and dull, and that I much preferred the similar arc, but like the expediency and the lack of just like just dragging through all these tropes that I hate, basically, is what Zack Snyder did,
Okay.
and the original
D-
doesn't.
do you want to start by exploring the Cyborg storyline, or would you rather start from the beginning of both films?
Yeah, I mean, I almost want to go through semi chronologically if
All right.
possible.
Let's jump right into that because that
Yeah,
will take almost the entire rest of this podcast. And of
absolutely.
course, you know, we'll only record like a 1 or 2 hour version of this, but of course, be prepared for the 4 hour cut that will come in 2025.
Apologies to Logan in advance. But don't
Okay.
worry, there'll be a lot of re-records.
Okay, so I think we can both agree that the prologues to both films are absolute dog shit, and in very different ways, but in well, okay, maybe we disagree, but I'll say, okay, the prologue to the Snyder Cut is the excruciatingly long scream heard around the world scene
It's
where
so long.
where Superman is, well, it opens in like you can't even tell what's going on world.
Okay, so this is where it starts for me, honestly.
Yeah,
Is like
yeah.
I am coming in as someone who knows nothing. Like this is the person that, like everyone's like the Snyder Cut would have made so much more money. Like it wouldn't have just been the diehard fans. Everyone would have been showing up to it. Like this is me. This is who they're trying to potentially draw in, with their Avengers like original team up.
Okay.
Which I also saw, having never seen any of the other Marvel like films prior. Avengers hooked me. This confused the fuck out of me if I'm watching Zack Snyder's version. I was like,
Right. Well,
okay,
it's
so
more a
like
part
it's
of
not
his
even
vision of a unified DCEU that is
right, but
singularly his
he
vision.
doesn't understand. That's fine if it's singularly your vision, whatever, dude. But like you need to make each installment of your movie franchise, and especially the big one that's uniting all of the people who might not have cared about individuals but wants to see everyone together, like that needs to be immediately accessible to like the man off the street, and it was not to me.
Or the alternative is make it immediately make you realize that you have to go watch all the other things in order to get the context so that
But
you
it's
can
like
sell
that with
more
every
tickets.
scene. It's like that with every scene, and I hate it.
Well,
It's
that's
terrible.
the only scene that requires like extensive context,
I
because
guess.
everything else is either referencing the comics or just referencing itself,
Either way,
or
it's
referencing future
alienating.
movies.
Sure,
So,
it's
I mean, it
it's
may have
all
felt like you were totally out of the loop for the whole thing, but let me tell you, the only real context for this movie that is needed is that Batman is responsible for Superman's death in that first scene. And that's
right,
it.
which is unclear visually until like the very end. Like I had no idea what was happening
Right.
until and like it
And then
zoomed out
he,
and I still wasn't sure. I was like, did Superman lose? Did Superman die? Like I literally knew nothing, David.
right. Whereas in the Whedon cut, that information is revealed, which is a cliche, you must admit, on a newspaper.
Sure, but like
Newspaper,
fuck
Superman
it.
dead.
Whatever, that's fine, just get it over with. You're not
Right.
trying to We don't need to belabor this fucking point, which like they do again anyway later
Right.
with like
But
the
I was gonna say that, like, while I will for sure say that that opening scene of the Snyder cut with Superman shouting so loud that everyone on Earth can hear him,
it
from Amber
awakens
Heard to to Ray Fisher to uh, to
Cyborg's mother box.
even Jesse Eisenberg can hear him while he's looking at a big CGI Steppenwolf gathering
Yeah,
boxes.
didn't understand what that was or
Right, but
why.
nobody's supposed to, is the point. In that scene, Jesse Eisenberg, or maybe you don't know Jesse Eisenberg is Lex Luthor.
Well, I know
Uh,
that. I knew he
so
was Lex Luthor, but
so
I just was like,
this is a scene no one's seen before. He's just standing in a puddle, looking at a thing, and you don't find out what it is until later in the movie.
wait, when in the movie did they explain what that is though?
It was Steppenwolf. It's like a CGI Steppenwolf that he's looking at.
Right, but they
Uh,
don't explain why Lex Luthor saw it or was there or was doing anything.
oh right. Well, I guess that was in a previous film. He's the guy who made that monster that killed Superman, and he
Oh,
made it in that ship, which was Zod's ship from Man of Steel.
got it.
So that's incorporating all three movies into a scene. So sorry if that was confusing for you, Hannah, but
It
it's
was.
Snyder's vision.
Okay, great. I'm glad it's his
Um,
vision.
so I'll admit that that is a ridiculously silly and extremely drawn out, like, cut this shit down, please, scene. What a lot of fans have been responding to is that, Well, that scene makes it all make sense why the boxes wake up, which is, I think, a stupid point because the boxes could just wake up. Why does it
Yeah.
matter that they're waking up because of his shouting, like a
Also, you could
Kryptonian
literally just have that as a
shout?
line somewhere. Like, when Superman died, we had like some crazy resonance with the
Yeah, but
cube or
I guess
whatever.
it's difficult to represent that visually. So they like that he shouts and you see the shout pass through the boxes.
Whatever.
Although
Next.
there in the Whedon cut instead it opens with this Spider-Man Homecoming thing where Superman is on somebody's Instagram video.
Yeah, I mean, that's not good. It's bad. It's very awkward.
And then it goes into a scene that was also not in the Snyder Cut at all, where Batman is just hanging out on rooftops trying to tackle aliens.
I don't know. This Batman scene was like way more like it felt like Batman. Like it was fun and I was like, "Ooh, he's doing the like jumping from shadow to shadow shit." Like that's what I'm want from Batman. I
I
don't
don't know.
know.
I found it to be an incredibly awkward scene with weird, tonally dissonant humor with this burglar guy who's like, "Hey, you think that maybe these bugs are here because Superman's dead? What's up with that? Gabagool." And then the weird scene where Batman is flying around the city on the back of this bug, which you don't know what it is because it hasn't been like introduced in any way, and then it
Yeah.
just crash lands right back where it started for some reason. And I guess it's setting up the thing with the siren for like an hour or two later in the movie, that sirens distract the bug for some
Hmm.
reason. So
Sure. I don't know. It
I
was
think that's
fine.
kind
I
of a
didn't
silly
care. It
scene.
was already faster and better and didn't drag on for 30 million years. So like great. The
Right.
fear they can smell it line was definitely dumb. But I don't know, call me dumb, but I kind of liked that like the get the little ironic twist at the end
Right.
where that
Then
was fear.
in the Snyder cut, before the as the credits roll, we're getting Batman walking through Iceland on a horse, but they wanted to use every single helicopter shot that they shot.
It's not even helicopter shots, it's a fucking drone.
I don't actually know if that's the case. I don't know if drones can fly that high.
Why not?
Point being, it's I guess they wanted to get their money's worth for whatever they paid to get those shots from the sky. I think they're helicopters.
Okay.
Knowing Hollywood,
Okay.
but I don't know for sure. Um, and while the credits roll in the in the Whedon cut, we have a scene which to me feels very Snydery. The montage,
Yeah, it's very Snydery. It's
and
very
it's
weird.
goofy and it's funny and it's out there. Like it's like so grim, dark, and depressing that it like becomes camp. Where you have like the criminal kicking over apple carts and like then getting arrested and like the music is like everybody knows that the cops are
I
bad.
mean,
Everybody knows that apple carts get kicked over.
I mean, the music's very on the nose, but at least it like makes any kind of tonal sense compared to the musical choices, like the all the pop songs that Snyder chooses to use, which
I
are
like the musical choices that Snyder
oh,
uses too. I
I
think they're
hate
just as
them.
goofy. I think they're just as bizarre,
No,
dramatic,
I think they're
mellow,
worse
dramatic,
personally.
maybe even. I like them. But uh, it also
But I
has a
do
bunch
like
of
this song.
scenes that in the Snyder cut come much later of, Lois Lane reaching over on her bed to the pillow. Such a cliched shot to, to know that Superman is
It's
no longer
gone.
in her bed. Uh, but I think that cliche works in both versions. I like it. Um,
Yeah.
and then we also find out in both versions that the farm, the Smallville Kent farm has been foreclosed by the big banks.
But I like this because it happens so much sooner in the movie that it just like I don't know. It's like, yes,
And
this
it's
is
just
like
done in like a
all the
quick shot. It's not
right.
setting anything up really
Yeah,
in this version. It
it's
comes back at
fine.
the end, I guess.
Yeah,
But like in the Snyder cut, it's setting up the whole Martha Kent dynamic.
kind
You
of,
know,
but like not really because it's not even her later.
right? Oh, here's a little thing. When they're waking up the boxes,
Yeah.
in the Snyder cut, there's a bunch of Amazons in like this temple all surrounding the box, and they've all got their swords and shields up, and then the box like activates, and they all go, like they're all
Hmm.
like, oh, now we're getting ready. But why were they in there if the box hadn't woken up
My
yet?
thought that this is part of guard duty, just like,
So like they have literally 300 guards just like standing around a box that hasn't moved in thousands of years,
yeah,
not
like
hundreds.
sometimes you're on guard duty for the box and sometimes you're like taking care of the cows. It's fine. It's a communal society, David.
It seemed a little bit much to me. Whereas I think in the Whedon cut, and I think that there's something to this, that the boxes just sort of wake up. The box is like already awake when you see all the guards around it, so you get the sense that okay, maybe they had like one person who was watching the box, and then when it woke up, they brought everybody in.
Right.
So I think that would have made a little more sense. But hey, it's the Vision. It's the Vision. It's WandaVision. Um, and then in the Whedon cut, we also have a news scene of a woman who's going like, "These fucking aliens stole my fucking
Yeah, this
my
was an
fucking husband."
unnecessary Whedon add-in that was dumb and should not have been
Whedon
there.
jokes, and so then we get part one. Don't count on it, Batman. This is part one of the Snyder cut.
Which is
Um,
what, 6 parts, 7 parts?
uh,
It's 6 parts and
yeah,
an
I think
epilogue.
with an epilogue, yeah. So let's compare Aquaman scenes. Which one did you like better? Because they're
Um,
completely reshot. It's a totally different shots for the two Aquaman scenes.
I definitely liked Whedon's better.
Okay, all right. Any particular jokes that you thought were, oh, that's clever?
I mean, no, but it was so much less awkward. Like watching Snyder's version, it was just like there's no pacing of dialogue in like there's no pacing period in Snyder's cut, but like the
Yeah, I
dialogue
mean,
just takes
there's nothing,
forever.
there's no editing for concision. There's no economy of shot composition. There's no or
Right.
shot selection. There's absolutely no desire to trim anything. You're in that scene and you're there. You're not setting something up for later. You're just in the scene of Bruce Wayne going, "I'll pay you 25 grand
But
if I can
that's
talk to Aquaman."
boring. Like, this is what people who want like realism in fiction don't like. Sure, I guess enough people like this and Zack Snyder that it does something for someone. But for me, the reason that I watch media and consume stories is that it's more exciting than real life. And like not just because people are punching each other, but because you don't have all the boring like awkward silences that you have to just kind of like live in if that's not the point of the story, you know? Like
Well, I agree to disagree. I think that the pace in the Snyder cut for this scene in particular, I think works a little bit better. I think that the jokes and the insertion of like unnecessary humor into the scene, which is just meant as like an introduction for Aquaman, it kind of
mhm.
like breaks the it kind of breaks the illusion. And then I think the characterization of Arthur in this scene is meant to be more grimdark and more like brooding. So like he speaks more Icelandic. So like maybe if you didn't already know that he was Aquaman, you would be kind of surprised that he's more of like a broy American sounding dude.
I
Um,
guess.
I don't know. I think it was kind of neat the way they did it, and I do think that the "so I heard you can talk to fish" line, little cliche, little done.
Whatever. It was fine.
Whatever.
I didn't hate
Yeah.
it.
But I think the really funny thing about these scenes is once Aquaman has shown that he's Aquaman, and Batman's actively trying to recruit him to fight aliens. Uh, he takes off his sweater and throws it on the ground, and then gets in the water in his jeans to swim away. So he
Yeah.
swam there in jeans and then borrowed someone's sweater.
Whatever. Who knows?
I think that's insane, because who swims in jeans? But if you're gonna swim in jeans, why not swim in a sweater? Why not swim in anything? No?
Yeah. I don't know.
I think that's very silly.
Fair enough.
And then we have
was,
my favorite scene from the Snyder Cut.
Oh, the Icelandic singing.
Icelandic singing and sweater sniffing. Oh my god, the Snyderian excess. It is so sweet. It's just like it goes on forever and it doesn't cut once. I love it. I love it.
So long. And everybody just stands there and they're like, yeah. And it's like, why is it dramatic for these people? Doesn't he come here regularly? Like, what?
Yes, but he's like a god to them, Hannah. Remember, this is a story of gods and men. Remember, well, you didn't see Batman v Superman, but Jesse Eisenberg, he goes on long rants about how Superman is like the devil, but he comes from above like an angel, and Batman is like a god. Like, they're all gods.
Well, of course, Lex Luthor would want to imagine Batman as a god. He's just a rich guy.
Right. But yeah, things are a little bit in a different order in the Whedon cut. In that cut, we have all of the Wonder Woman introduction scenes before we introduce Aquaman.
Right.
So, but in the Snyder cut, that comes right after we have a bunch of scenes of Lois Lane visiting Superman's grave and buying coffee for a cop who's like, "You don't miss a day, huh? Like, you bring me coffee every day." I was watching it with my brother, and he was like, "What? So is that just to establish that she's like a nice person, that she just brings a cop coffee every day?" I was like, "No, I mean, she's visiting a grave or a memorial site for Superman."
Yeah. I thought at first also that she was bribing the guard, that like
to let her in.
Yeah, like to let her like extra close to like Superman's memorial or something.
No, it's a public memorial, but I can see how you would read it that way. Right. So then after that, that's when we get the Wonder Woman introduction scene in the Snyder cut. So let's compare these for a moment and discuss. Do you also prefer the Whedon cut of this scene?
Yeah.
Really? I'm surprised. I think that the action of, you know, the excessive slow-mo and fast-mo and whatever, I think it gives a lot more energy to the Wonder Woman scene. Although I could, you know, take or leave the gratuitous head smashing and blood splattering on walls, which is always a big part of Snyder's extended cuts.
Yeah. Well, hold on. I'm trying to. Maybe it is just like the like excessive blood and guts or whatever that like I was glad wasn't in the Wonder Woman scenes. Because I will say, I think I might like Zack Snyder's treatment of Wonder Woman better than Joss Whedon's.
I would agree with that. Yes, I think if you're going to give kudos to any one thing for Snyder, it would be Wonder Woman is treated with a little more respect. God damn it. She is a goddamn princess. All right.
Right. And
treat her with respect.
Right. I would have cut out some of the dumb Whedon jokes and replaced them with some of the fun shit that Wonder Woman did in the Snyder cut.
Yeah. So are you saying, for example, when she goes up to the little girl and the little girl's like, "Can I be
Okay,
like
no,
you someday?" And she says, "You
that's
could be anything you want to be." I think that's
no, I
great. Why not?
no,
What's wrong with
that
that?
I no, that's eye rolling. That's pandering at its worst.
It's
That needed to stay
pandering, but
dead.
what's wrong
No,
with pandering? You're telling me
no,
Joss Whedon
I
doesn't
hated
pander?
it. I'll say this, as a woman, I hated it.
Okay, well,
It really felt
eh,
condescending. Like, oh, the little
you
girl
can
can't
have
look up to.
superpowers one day.
It's like, there, little girl. You too could be blessed by the gods and born like miraculously. Like, no, that's
Yeah.
not how it fucking works in this
And it's
universe.
even
It's
funnier given that like they've just seen a man explode
right. It's like these kids should be
and his hat,
so
his
traumatized.
his his glorious fedora daintily drifting down and landing on the cop car below. And
Yeah.
even funnier than that is the layer of irony on, yes, this is a group of reactionary terrorists,
But that's in
self-described reactionary terrorists, mind
yes.
you.
Yes. But that
That's how they
isn't
see themselves.
but that is in both cuts.
Yes, and it's hilarious in both cuts, and it makes me
Yeah.
laugh out loud. But then their goal was to blow up the building. That was their main plan. Yeah, they wanted to kill like a few more people, but
Yeah.
Wonder Woman just went in there, and apparently, no one has ever seen her before. Like, I think the premise in both films is that she's remained hidden for all of this time since World War One.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, even in Wonder Woman 1984, where I guess like nobody really saw her, or if they did, I guess they forgot.
Right.
Um, but like, yeah, she just comes out of nowhere and blows up some people and blows up the building.
Well, no,
So
she
kind
throws
of,
the suitcase above the building. It blows up above the building, David.
yeah, but she then blows it up anyway with her wrist gauntlets.
That's true. That's true.
But
She
that's
does
only in
do
the
that.
Snyder cut.
Yes.
So what did you think? Did you catch the motivation of these reactionary terrorists?
They're trying to launch the world back into the Dark Ages, but you only find out why the Dark Ages in the Whedon cut.
What do you mean?
Isn't the one where they're like, it's a sin? Was that in the Snyder
No, that
cut,
was
or was
in
that?
that was in both, and they talk I think more extensively in the Snyder cut about the aliens coming and the aliens being the reason that we have to blow up this building. That the aliens are attracted to tall buildings. I don't know. It's dumb in both versions. It's just an excuse to have an action scene early on where you can introduce Wonder Woman. And
Yeah.
the thing about the Snyder cut is always that you have like two or three introductions to every character, whereas in the Whedon cut you only have one. Uh, so this introduction to Diana as just being like a person who stands on buildings and then saves them from terrorists.
Right.
I guess it works, but all right. Anything else in part one? Don't count on it, Batman, that you want to talk about?
Yeah, just I mean, okay, so this was a moment after the Aquaman scene.
In
Um
which cut?
in the Snyder cut, I believe,
Yes.
when Bruce is getting, or is that back in the, is this in part two? Oh, that is in part two.
Okay.
Um,
Well, in part one, I did forget to say that the Whedon cut puts the Barry Allen's introduction first and adds in some hilarious hijinks where he draws in marker on a guy, a skinhead, I guess, and then he is none the wiser. And
yeah.
then he visits his father in jail, which in the Snyder cut doesn't happen until part two.
Right.
Um, Also in part one, apparently, I don't even remember that this happens in part one, but the janitor in Star Labs who works for Cyborg's dad, Cyrus Stone, uh, he gets kidnapped in part one uh, of the Whedon cut. I'm
Yeah.
organizing the Whedon cut into parts based on the first and last scene of the Snyder Cut. I know I didn't
Okay.
mention that before, because obviously the Whedon Cut isn't divided into parts, but you need to have something to kind of compare it to,
Yeah.
or else it just becomes unwieldy. Um, okay, and then yeah, it looks like
Then the mother
you know
boxes
the
awaken.
right the first part of yeah, then the next thing that happens is the box waking up, and now we're being introduced to the Amazons, which, you know, I guess it makes sense to do it right after introducing Diana.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes, I think, a little more sense in the Snyder Cut,
Yeah.
as opposed to going to Barry and then going to the Amazons.
Yeah, that's fair.
Um, of course, a lot of people have identified that the Amazons costuming is not something that I think Patty Jenkins would have
No, it is not.
done.
It is not.
It is much more risque and not period appropriate and not combat appropriate.
Yeah, it's
But
very sexy gladiator bullshit. But it's like
300,
that. Right. It's like that in both. So like whatever.
right? But I'm saying that's a Snyder sort of distinction from the rest of the DCEU.
Right.
But yeah, so
So
so now we have
consistent.
our first exposure to Steppenwolf. I like to call him Wolfie. He's my friend Wolfie. And he looks very different in both versions. Which design did you like better?
I like the original Justice League from Whedon's cut so much better.
I think he looks like an Xbox One, like not Xbox One, the original Xbox level graphics.
I strongly disagree.
His face is like blurry.
No, it's not. What are you talking about? I didn't think it was blurry.
I don't like his face.
I don't think it was blurry at all. Also, I could understand what he was saying at all.
Right. That's
nice.
Always the funny thing about Snyder is the bass needs to be turned up so that you can understand what people are saying.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's really bad. But also, I don't know. I found the Snyder design to be incredibly video gamey and just like how CGI'd and how much.
No, I mean it was definitely video gamey. I think it's ridiculous. He's like he goes from being like a dude who's like tall and wears a helmet to like a monster man who's covered in like shiny, constantly writhing spikes. And sometimes he like gets naked, like the spikes just like come off.
It's very
like,
weird.
Sometimes, and his face is like he's got like a chin claw, and like his horns are very skin like. It's very gross and nasty design, but I do like it better than just a dude with an.
I don't know. I liked the dude. I liked the alien dude with mommy issues. It's fine. It's simple.
I think
need more.
The mommy issues thing with the boxes, because they're called mother boxes when really they could just be tesseracts or allsparks or any number of other cinematic
sci-fi
cubes.
MacGuffin. Right.
Well, they're always cubes is the thing, right? In Transformers, they started it with those cubes. Marvel had a cube. There's always
they only had the one cube,
cubes.
though. There are a lot of.
I didn't say that they had more than one. I said
they're just exist.
They started the cubes, and so I think Whedon was sort of addressing, or maybe there was some studio note that was like, well, why are they called mother boxes?
I mean, I did have that question. I was kind of like,
it's a thing from the comics, you know? It's
sure, but like you can't.
There's mother boxes and there's father boxes, and it's about the psychoanalytic difference between heaven and hell. There's New Genesis and Apocalypse, and the New Genesis has the mother box, and the Apocalypse has the father box.
But aren't they coming from Apocalypse?
Yes, but they're kind of shaving off the rough edges of the comics to just make it something that a general audience could potentially understand.
Right, so but if you're doing that, then you could just literally change it to not be mother box, which is weird.
Or you could just take out the boxes entirely because they are a lame and cliche plot point.
Sure, but I don't care. Like, we're talking about superhero movies. Like, it's fine if they have to get a MacGuffin to stop a big bad. Like, sure, you can do something with that. Your plot doesn't need to reinvent the freaking wheel, but like, I need to be able to understand it.
Right. Well, anyway, a mother box, they describe it as like a change engine. It can undo entropy. It can change something from destroyed to fixed, from dead to alive. It can turn the world into devil world. It can open portals. It can do a lot of things.
Right.
So you got to keep it away from the bad guy. And we have a much longer scene with much more slow-mo in the Snyder Cut. They also included the entire building falling off a cliff, and then just the guy popping out of the building and coming out, as opposed to just popping out before the building goes over a cliff. So, Whedon cut, saving some time.
Let me say though, so like this was the scene where I was really just like, I do not like this Zack Snyder version of how he uses CGI at all. Like it just makes everything look really fake and bizarre and like just ugly. And not in like an appealing way, just like aesthetically repulsive.
I'm sure you'll grant that is a very personal sort of taste thing.
Absolutely. But I will say, to me, a general audience taste, I found the Zack Snyder like style to be not compelling and interesting.
Right. And well, I mean, I think it's a little more washed out, but I think that the movement, the motion is a little more legible as a result than the saturated version that Whedon has.
I disagree.
I don't know if I have like a particular preference between them, but clearly the shots are in the Snyder version, they are to his vision, right?
Yes.
They are grim dark, and they match the tone of the dialogue and the action.
But I don't think there was so much of a mismatch in Justice League.
All right, I may be overestimating it. It might be my male bias. I mean, clearly, like the movie is being pitched to a particular kind of audience that liked Watchmen, and right. I tolerate Watchmen, the movie. So I think the different tastes for different bastes.
I was really excited to see how you're gonna end that one. Different tastes for different bastes. That's our new tagline.
Okay. So yeah, we got to keep the box away from the dude. We failed to keep the box away from the dude. Rocks fall, people die. It is what it is. And then I think in both versions we move to what I have labeled as our next part, because part 2, The Age of Heroes, begins, and suddenly we're in Soviet Russia.
Which is not clear.
Not Soviet Russia, but post-Soviet Russia, I guess.
It's not clear.
In the fallout of a Chernobyl-like event.
In the Snyder Cut, I just like, we're at a nuclear reactor. Was there any title and I just missed it?
No, they made a conscious decision in the Snyder Cut to not include any titles to say where we are. They don't say, one of my favorite things about Aquaman is every single one of those location drops is somewhere in the blank ocean, which is hilarious to just go somewhere in the Indian Ocean, somewhere in the Pacific, somewhere in
the Arctic Ocean. Come and find me.
Okay, part 2, The Age of Heroes, and we have slightly more time dedicated in the Snyder Cut to shooting an arrow that's on fire to light up a temple, to then put the arrow in the temple in order to go into a Cave of Wonders type place and look at a tapestry.
I don't know. I think it was kind of fun. Like, it was very National
love it.
Treasure, and I
I
loved
just
it.
was like, why is it Indiana Jones? Why is this
Because it's
suddenly?
Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is
I,
so like DC Indiana Jones, you know?
I don't have any problem with it. I'm expressing just a sort of what I was experiencing was what how is this in this movie? Because I think this is an experience a lot of people had who saw the theatrical cut first.
Mm-hmm.
Is how can you stretch that into 4 hours? Like, what are they adding? Like, what? There must be like a whole other subplot. And as it turns out, there's a lot of really tiny subplots that
Yeah.
are just scattered everywhere. And this is one of them. Wonder Woman goes down into a temple and sees a hieroglyph of Darkseid invading. So I guess
Mm-hmm.
she didn't know about this before, or this is still part of her decoding the message on the arrow, or
Whatever. Who knows?
I think
I
it's
liked it.
wild.
It's great. Um,
So
yeah.
in the Snyder cut, much quicker. But then we have our two, Lois Lane. We have a Lois Lane introduction scene in the Whedon cut, which was shot specifically for that film, and I thought it was so cringe. I thought it was extremely uncomfortably cringe. Their interaction, where she says, uh, "My son told me that you were the thirstiest woman he'd ever met."
That's the only part of it that I don't like. Otherwise, I think it's fine.
No, I think the rest of it's shot like really brightly, like 10 times brighter than the scene before and the scene after it. And I think there's
I
like
don't
so much
know.
less pathos to it, I think, than
But I don't
the
think there
comparable
needs to
scene
be that
later in the Snyder
that
cut.
pathos.
Why not for Lois? What, just
Because we
because she
get
doesn't
it. We're
deserve it?
sad. Like,
Well,
I
the
think this
plot
is,
point is the same in both of them, that she's no longer pursuing her career because
but
she's
it's
been
entirely different.
traumatized.
No. Because one, she's so traumatized, she does not leave, like, she has stopped going to work. And then the
Uh-huh.
other one, she's just like, I
She's
just
doing
can't
puff
chase those big
pieces.
stories right now. I'm okay to
Okay,
do some
does
fluff
that make a
pieces.
difference from like
Yes.
a representation perspective?
I mean, it's like, I mean, I think both portray like this has truly affected me,
Right.
but one is like my entire identity is like gone. Like, is it in the Snyder cut where she's like, I wasn't strong when you were gone, or is that Whedon?
Uh, I think there's a version of that scene in both. I can't remember exactly the dialogue in the two
But
different
but
Smallville scenes.
basically, I'm pretty sure in the Snyder cut, it's like Lois Lane's entire world was Superman, and then Superman dies, and Lois Lane like cannot do anything.
Okay, all
Which,
right.
like,
I
sure,
think I think it's a
that
it's a it's a love story. It's a love story
right.
about Jesus
I
dying
think
and being
that's
resurrected.
right. Like, okay, here's the thing. Is it fine? Sure. Is it
Okay.
a thing I like to see in movies? No, not at all. I find it
Okay.
really
And then
annoying.
I guess yeah, it's not the same. So
Yes.
you could say that there at least was a purpose in reshooting the scene, if for no other reason than to satisfy that that representational uh, issue.
Sure.
Um, okay. I have a note that says product placement on razor with Batman shaving.
Yes. Okay, so this is the scene where I'm like, we just like throw down the fact that Batman has already asked Wonder Woman to come join us and she said no, but like we never see, I don't know, it's
That was in the
weird.
last movie.
Oh, it was in the last movie he asked her?
Yeah.
Okay, so then never mind. Null and void.
So you need a line of dialogue to address it, but you don't want to literally show it again.
That's fine, that's fine.
And then that's after that, after we have Batman sort of bickering with Alfred over like putting a team together. What's the deal with that? I got to put a team together, Alfred. Pointless filler, unnecessary. I would cut it immediately.
Yeah.
And then we cut to Star Labs, and we're introduced to Cyborg's dad in the Snyder Cut, um, and then we have the janitor getting kidnapped. So happens a
But
little
this
bit
time,
later.
the janitor doesn't know that the family is that Victor's dead. So he's like, "Say hi to your wife and son for me." And he's
Oh,
like,
that's rough.
"Yeah, yeah." And he like walks away
Yeah.
weird.
You also
And
have that really dramatic mop drop
that's in
shot,
both of them.
which I love. I just love it. I can't explain why. It's just like this is what filmmaking is, right?
Yes.
Dramatic mop drop.
Yes. It's definitely filmmaking.
Um, yeah. So Cyborg's dad being like an expert is a lot more of a thing in the Snyder Cut. He gives a lot of exposition about alien tech and alien
Right, but none of it's
metals and
needed. Like, who cares? I find it all very boring and
yeah, I mean, I
useless.
think I think I, if I was making decisions on what to cut, it would be all the exposition scenes at Star Labs, which I think are really there to set up the Atom, the Asian scientist ends up being having the name of the Atom.
Oh, okay.
So no, I didn't know that either when I was watching it, but I looked it up after.
I mean, I figured it was something important for like the um,
The
Snyder's vision of
DCEU.
the DCEU. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and then we have the hilarious drawing of what the parademon looks like from the cops.
Oh
The
my
the,
god,
the
the
sketch.
Snyder when they throw it up on the scene so dramatically and we're all clearly supposed to know that it looks like Batman and it just looks like a cartoon drawing from
It's
like a
like a kid
10-year-old.
drew it.
It's so bad.
I mean, they have that picture in both, but it's done twice in the Snyder Cut.
No, the picture is different though. It's a differently drawn picture in
Really?
Justice League.
Oh,
Yes.
I guess I hadn't
It's
noted that.
it's way less dumb looking in Justice
Well,
League than it is.
well, then I'm gonna mark that as a minus for the Whedon cut because I think that drawing is hilarious and
Oh
it's
my
it's it's
god.
it's honestly one of the most entertaining things in the movie. Just this drawing of like literally if you ask a 3-year-old to draw Batman, like they might draw it like that. I
Oh,
love it.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, then we have our like second introduction to Aquaman, where he's at the bottom of the ocean, and it's like this could be the first introduction to Aquaman, or you could cut this scene. Does not matter one way or the other. But Aquaman's down under the water, looking at a statue of, I guess, his grandpa, his uncle, something.
Dad? Question mark?
It's not his dad. His
Oh,
dad is a lighthouse worker.
okay.
Uh, and Willem Dafoe is there. I love Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe
Glad
is
he got
great.
more shots in this movie.
He's so weird. I love him.
Bizarre casting, lovely. He's talking about the snatchers from above.
A very Willem Dafoe thing to be talking about.
Yes, very much so. And then he's like, "Take up your mother's trident." And he's like, "I hate my mom. She abandoned me, and also I'm sad that she's dead because Atlantis killed them. And also, fine, I'll take the fucking trident, Winden or whatever."
Yeah.
Uh, and then we have this type of scene that only exists in the Snyder Cut, which is Wolfie. Wolfie has to occasionally make phone calls to his his supervisor, who is Desaad,
Here's
who's like
the
a
thing.
melty Darth Sidious looking motherfucker.
Here's the thing about Steppenwolf. When he is simping for Darkseid, I don't care. When he's simping for his mommy boxes, I'm all in.
I think it works. I think it works
No.
either way. I think they're
No, when
both like
he's it's
distinct but interesting character
oh,
choices
it's
for
just
one of the blandest DC villains you could possibly have picked.
sure,
Like
totally.
you could have gone with any number of space baddies or Earth baddies. You could have done Brainiac. You could have done, you could have done anything. You could have done alien invaders of various kinds, the invasion plotline from the what is it,
I don't know
this
enough DC.
W verse, the Arrowverse.
Oh, sure,
Uh,
yeah.
you could do anything. Steppenwolf is obviously like dark side light.
Right, but that's fine. Here's the thing. If me, the general public, doesn't know who Darkseid is, and like I don't know who Steppenwolf is. So like if it's just like he's some weirdo alien with a thing for mommy boxes and like just likes conquering shit, great. That's all I need to know in
But
this
you don't think that
jam-packed movie.
but you don't think that simping is simping
No,
regardless?
no, 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 because when because if he's simping for this like metaphorical mom, like it's Oedipal, we get it. But like if he's just
He's
like,
simping
I'm
for his
sad because
dad.
he doesn't like me, but it's not his dad, like it's clearly like his brother or like his
No,
lover.
it's like he's
Like,
supposed to be like the father of all evil. He's like the devil. He's like,
but I don't
you
know
know,
that. Like,
well, they tell you. They say he's that.
right,
And then
but
they
it's
say he's
like,
on the throne of like he's the king. And so then Steppenwolf
but
is like his little fucking betrayer. Like he's like oh god, what's that character
But it doesn't have me
from Lord of the
invested
Rings?
in like Steppenwolf at all. It's like, well, this wasn't even his idea. He's just doing this to like he has no real stake in this. He
No,
doesn't
no,
really
they
care about
explain
the
why
earth.
he's doing it. It's because he wanted the throne, but then he became indebted to Darkseid when he betrayed him, and now he's trying to earn back his favor by conquering 49,999 million worlds until he repays his debt. I think that's great. It's like a mob movie. I think it's neat. I don't think that one is like particularly better than the other. Obviously, one is a lot more economical in terms
Hmm.
of time. But I like Steppenwolf as a simp. I don't care who he simps for personally.
I don't know. I found him so much more bearable in the original Justice League
Where
and the
he
Whedon cut.
smells the scent of his mother.
Yeah, like great. It's so weird and creepy. I love it. I'm so
I like it
invested.
too. I like it too. Um, so then I think the last scene in part two in the Snyder Cut is Batman and Diana just sort of like recapping their search for heroes, and then we have the backstory scene uh, where Diana explains who Darkseid is,
Yeah.
while Batman fixes an airship with a wrench. So, what
Yep.
did you think of the distinctive flashback scenes in each version?
Um, I don't know. They
They
were
obviously replaced Steppenwolf with Darkseid in the Snyder Cut.
yeah. Um, I don't know. They were both fine. Like they did what they needed to do.
Yeah,
I don't think I
I
had
think
any.
they were a big part of the fan service aspect of these movies, and the fact
Okay,
that it was so much expanded in the Snyder Cut is more fan service. So
sure.
you've got dead Green Lanterns on the on the place, and you've got all these gods who are like the Greek Roman gods or whatever,
Yeah.
fighting Darkseid, and lots of action ensues. And then
Mm-hmm.
they defeat him and like make him bleed, which I think is kind of weird to show right off the bat to show that he's defeatable.
Yeah.
I guess maybe in the sequel, if it ever happens, they're going to do something to power him up even more to make him more scary. Whatever, who gives a
Who
shit?
knows?
And then they establish in both versions that they gave the 3 boxes to the 3 races: Atlanteans, Amazons, and people. And the people decide to bury the box in a 3 foot deep hole in the woods. And that's
I
in
mean,
both versions.
mwah, beautiful, very classic. Good job, humans. You stupid fox.
Yeah. But whereas, the Diana explaining things to Batman scene in the Snyder Cut happens in the Batcave. In the Whedon Cut, it happens walking along the side of a lake,
Yeah.
and then you find out that Cyborg is there, and he's watching them for some reason because
Yeah.
he saw on the internet that they're looking for him. So if they're looking for him, he should go look for them, I guess.
Yeah, why not? I don't know. I don't have any problem with that.
I just thought it's like kind of like a messy and second intro for Cyborg in that one.
I
Uh
guess.
where he's first introduced in part one, I don't think we mentioned that he's like talking to his dad and he's like, I'm a monster. No, actually, you're the monster for making me a monster. And like his dad just being like, son, I think you've been cooped up in here too long. And him being like, I am a
Yeah.
cyborg.
Well, here's the thing. I know you love your family drama. So do you prefer like, the Cyborg intro in the Snyder, he's a lot more um aggressive with his dad, and like we have the whole thing where he blames his dad for his mother's death, which is just dumb.
Doesn't
It
make
doesn't
any
make any
sense.
sense. Which is partly why I prefer Cyborg in this one, and how he's just kind of mad at his dad about like making
Well,
him not
the
human.
real cyborg juiciness doesn't come until I think part 3, where we have our slow-mo football game
Oh yeah, okay, we'll get there
for
then.
a million hours.
Yeah.
But we'll get there. So, and then I'll talk more about Cyborg.
Yeah.
So part 3, beloved mother, beloved. So I think first we have Flash's introduction, right?
Which is well,
Baffling.
yeah, no, this is in the Snyder Cut, Flash's introduction. Um it's the doggy park thing where he gets a
Yeah, he's
job
like,
and
I
like
gotta find
saves
me a job, and then
saves a
he goes
girl.
to get a job, but then a guy drops his hamburger sandwich on the floor of his truck, and like
Classic.
Homer Simpson just reaches for it and then crashes headlong. So the
Through a
dangers
red
of
light.
hamburger eating, very
Yeah.
important social themes in this film.
So important. It's dumb. This scene was a good thing to cut. Good job, Joss Whedon, on
Well,
that.
this is another one that the fans have reacted incredibly positively to, because they see it as a badass Flash scene. People love these slow mo quickster scenes,
I
which
don't
I
also
find tiresome.
I agree entirely. I mean, especially the way it's done here, and like the fact that this girl is flying out of a car and her face is frozen like if I was flying out of a car, my face would be frozen like
I don't know that it
like
would. I
it
don't know that
wouldn't
you know what your face would look like
it would
in
not
a car
look
crash
cute. Let me
situation.
just tell you that. It would not be
Okay,
cute.
fair
And
enough.
maybe I'm
Fair
just
enough.
jealous,
Fair enough.
but like I don't think her face would be that cute.
But I think the decision to incorporate extreme edge lord angstiness and extreme dumb humor in the form of he's like stroking the hair of this stranger that he's saving from a car crash, while a pop ballad plays, uh, and while he is also
Grabbing
grabbing
a
hot
hot dog.
dogs out of the sky and putting them in his pocket. I mean, I think I find the excess, and I've said that word a number of times now, because Snyder is known for just putting in too much, for being too much. And I adore this scene for that reason, because it's so silly. It's
No,
bizarre. It
next.
adds to my enjoyment of the film.
It's fine. It didn't need to be there. Like give if you
No,
like
of
this
course you
scene,
would
give
cut it if
Flash
you were trying to cut this thing down to two
right.
hours. But what would you lose? You'd lose the hot dogs. You'd lose the creepiness. You'd lose the
Good. I don't like creepy Flash. It's
I hear you.
weird. I don't like it.
And then after that, I think
That's when he then goes to his dad, right? Or is that
no, I think
no? That's later.
that's after a bunch of other stuff.
See,
Because
like that's the
of
other.
course, the Snyder Cut is it's like Inception. It's like every time you go a layer into it, it gets 10 times longer.
It's just it's everything is so spread out from each other, so
Right.
you really lose where you are. Like it's not
Yes.
even paced like a TV show,
Right.
like Russian Doll is basically a 4-hour movie too, but like
Right.
that
But
has
it's
like
broken up into episodes that are
right,
somewhat chronological. These
r-
are
right,
chrono crazy. They're chrono
that like
chrono diabolical.
right, that just makes sense, like it's possible to make a 4-hour movie that like makes sense, and you did
Right.
not succeed, Zack Snyder.
I mean,
um
the bizarreness of, now, wait, did we miss? No, we didn't miss it. Now we have the parademons dragging Atlanteans onto the land to put a crab monster on their head
yeah,
that can project where the box is, which is is totally unnecessary, but it sets up the crabs later, and that's like a distinction. When we get to it, I'll discuss it more. But
yeah, but it sets up the crabs, but then it like doesn't fucking do anything with them really.
no, he uses them to find the box. That's all they do. It's just a setup. It's really just a setup. And so
Yeah.
then um, you have Diana being racist, saying, "Yes, and Atlanteans. We went to war with them once. They're tricky, sneaky people. Uh, those mermaids."
Yeah, then there's awkward Bruce and Diana flirting. Can't forget
Oh
that.
yeah, I love it. They both touch the mouse and then go sorry and then never address it like ever again. I mean, Whedon of course has his own awkward flirty moments between them where Wonder Woman gives Batman a soothing massage and chiropractor session later.
Yeah, it's very
But we'll
weird.
get to that. So now we got the slow-mo football game where Victor Stone is the college quarterback, and oh man, he's so good at football in the snow, in the slow-mo. And again, like a slow-mo referee blowing his whistle, and then it just stretches. It just stretches. It goes on for so long to the point of hilarity, I think. I think there's an enjoyment to just how ridiculous this padding is.
I'm glad you got enjoyment out of it, David. I'm glad someone did.
Right. Then we have an even more sort of baffling scene of like trying to explain what Cyborg's powers are, because unlike Aquaman, who talks to fish, unlike Wonder Woman, who has a whip or a lasso, this is a little bit more confusing, complicated. What is it that Cyborg does? And so we have his dad on a tape recorder explaining what he does while we see visuals of what his mind is like.
We're in his
How
mind palace.
he goes into his mind palace, yeah, where in his mind he's whole, he's human.
Oh.
And we see some of the most astounding Snyderian visuals I've ever seen of when he's talking about how he can control the banks.
Oh my
Which
god.
is awkward. And then you have Wall Street represented by a literal bear and bull fighting each other.
Yeah, it's
And then we have the creepy scene where he stalks an old lady, a mom, a single
she's
mother
not
or
that
something.
old.
All right, well, she stalks a lady.
Yeah.
So one that's
But
closer to his own age than I was letting on. But he stalks this lady and then determines that she is of good moral character and thus gives her some welfare.
Yeah.
So very neoliberal sort of tendencies in in all superhero movies, really, but also in this one.
Yeah.
That he's like, you woman, you deserve $100,000 and no one else.
Right.
And then also he apparently has the power to launch all the missiles.
Apparently.
And then he smashes the tape recorder when his father starts pretending to actually care about him. He doesn't care. He just wanted him for an experiment. This is his conflict in the comics and in most cartoon adaptations of Cyborg.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's totally fine to play it up and to expand on it. It's not really dwelt on as much in the Whedon cut. And in fact, in the Whedon cut, as far as I remember, he just kind of like has one line where he's like, "Hey, Dad, I saved your life. and then in the end of the movie they're like patting each other on the back, being like, we're buds now.
I
Right.
mean, yes, but I hated this. Like, I don't know. I just find it boring. I just and maybe it is totally me and probably is just me and my very personal biases, but like I just don't care about another father son redemption arc. I've seen them so many times and they're all the same and like they all end with the dad dying and like the Snyderverse is no different. And I was just like happy that his dad didn't die in like the Whedon cut. So
I guess it serves its purpose.
he really didn't
I
have to
personally
die in
like
the
it
Snyder
better.
cut though. Like that's the other
I
thing.
personally think it's fine that he dies. I think it's somewhat touching, heartbreaking that he's got the tape recorder at the end.
Yes, I mean, but
And
it's the sort of touching tape recorder that like moment where I was just like, okay, this is saccharine. Like,
and I mean, like a lot of changes in the Whedon cut were to sort of add more humanity into it. For example, introducing all of the Russian family in their Chernobyl city.
yeah.
So the fact that they would put that in, but then take out scenes, father son scenes where they're connecting, where he's forgiving him, and where he dies tragically,
I mean, but
sacrificing
I
himself
think you
for
could I
the
I think
thing. I think
I
that's a little rough.
I agree. I think you could leave out the Russian family and have the whatchamacallit, the
Just more
like
reconcile. You could even reshoot
right.
a reconciliation scene
Exactly.
between
Like I
Victor and his
think
dad.
I
But
don't think it would be a bad thing to give Cyborg more screen time than he got in the Whedon cut. I just vehemently dislike the storyline that he does have in the Snyder cut and I think it's very boring and overdone and like just not particularly interesting to me and especially smack dab in the middle of like a bulbous film that is just already bloated,
right.
doesn't help it.
All right. Well, now finally in the Snyder Cut, we have the introduction of Barry's dad in jail. I think it's a little longer, but just like a couple
It's
extra lines of dialogue.
yeah,
Um,
I think it's a lot
it's about the
longer.
same from as
Yeah.
far as I remember.
I don't like that his dad is like, don't come to see me anymore. Like,
Yeah, that's in both versions too. Yeah.
it's in both versions. I think it's dumb in both versions.
I mean, I think it sets up stakes. Like he's got to, I don't know, he's got to get better at his life, or else his dad won't see him anymore. I don't
Right,
know.
but I think this is where, his arc in um his arc I find his arc in the Whedon cut more compelling than the Snyder cut because, it's not this like time bullshit where he was,
Got to make his
shit.
own future.
Right, but he's not being held back, and like not being the best of the best. He has that line later. He's like, "You tell my old man that I was one of them. I was the
The
best of the
best.
best." And it's just
Yeah,
like,
but he
ugh,
was a
whatever.
superhero.
Right, but like, come on. Sure. I don't need it explicitly stated to me. Like, I
Yeah.
like the fact
Very,
that
very surface, very always you got to be very explicit in a Snyder movie and to just
right.
explain all your themes.
Whereas I like in the Whedon version where it's like we just see that he is like, shit, I've never really dealt with like problems of this magnitude before. I'm a little nervous. And Batman's like, come on, kid, you can do it. Like, I don't know. I
Right.
like that. I enjoy that
I
more.
think the Whedon cut, in terms of what it reshot in order to insert conflicts that weren't there or in arcs that weren't there in the original, is that
Mm-hmm.
what it identified, which is true about the Snyder cut, is that there are arcs for all of the characters in the Snyder cut, but they are
Mm-hmm.
all tangential to the team dynamic, tangential to the plot,
Right.
designed to be internal,
Mm-hmm.
which I think for some fans that's very similar to the way that a lot of things are done in a lot of comics because you can
Mm-hmm.
see thought bubbles. So
Right.
you tend to have conflicts that are more internal than external or interpersonal.
Right.
Um, so, but you know, Cyborg, his conflict is with his dad. His dad is not on the team. His dad does not contribute to, the fighting in the team or in the climax or anything. It's just an emotional thing he has to go through with his dad. Barry, same deal. He's got a thing with his dad, and he's got a power thing that he's got to overcome. Like he can't control his powers perfectly. Batman, he's got guilt. Enough said. Wonder Woman, little skimpy on the arc for her in both versions.
Yes.
Aquaman, he's got a
Well,
thing with
it's
his
about
parents.
deciding to rejoin the world. Like I feel like
Right,
that's
right. That's in both versions. Yeah.
That's in both versions, but is it more
Also tangential to the plot.
Yeah.
And then the Aquaman, his thing is with his family and with Atlantis, which then gets dealt with much more extensively in his solo movie. But none of them have any conflicts with each other. They're all pretty much in agreement on what to do throughout the whole movie, and they don't bicker. They don't. They all support each other for the most part. Some of them take a little while to join the group, but once they do, there's no like issue of who takes command or anything.
Yeah, I will say I was very glad that there wasn't like any leadership strife, and two, there wasn't any like, I'm leaving the team now, bye, and then like they come back 2 hours later.
Right, which is a thing I think that I enjoyed in the Avengers, the first one, and then never again.
Yes. Yes.
But in the Whedon cut, all the conflicts are interpersonal. All the ones that they added in. You have Batman and the Flash. He takes on sort of a parental, fatherly role, sort of training him to be better. And Flash is insecure about his superhero status in relation to Batman, as opposed to just in relation to himself. Wonder Woman has conflicts with Batman in terms of deciding whether or not to resurrect Superman. Aquaman also participates in that, and he's got a weird like I'm racist against robots thing with Cyborg.
Yeah.
It's all interpersonal. So it makes sense if your movie is 2 hours and you've decided that all these extraneous conflicts, they take up too much time. You still need character conflict in order to make any story work. I think it makes sense what they did in terms of shoehorning in all those conflicts. But they do feel shoehorned in. You can see the seams in all the edits and all the scenes that didn't exist before, where they're literally just talking to each other, explaining their perspectives. And they're all kind of interchangeable too. Like, there's nothing particular about Wonder Woman that would make her not want to resurrect Superman as opposed to Batman.
That's true. Yeah.
They're just sort of plot-based conflicts. But in some ways that's better because it integrates better with the plot. So I guess I'm just saying nothing in terms of quality.
I think in terms of quality, maybe it's not like a crazy difference, but I think that is a really important like structural change of how Joss Whedon was like trying to look at these characters versus Snyder, who, as you said, was doing very internal, and Whedon was doing very interpersonal.
Right. We still got so much to get through. Maybe we should breeze through it a little bit, but we've just got weird scenes in the Snyder cut that are just happening. Alfred mansplains tea to
it's terrible.
To Wonder Woman.
It's dumb.
Also, kettles. There's a lot of kettles in this movie. I think if Batman v Superman has a weird amount of horses, this movie has a weird amount of kettles.
Fair.
But anyway. There's
Mercedes-Benz
product placement.
This is in both. But that brings me to the Batman meets Barry scene, because I think the tone of this is like when we really start getting into the Flash in the Snyder cut is where like the Flash is making jokes, and like the same jokes are in both
but Whedon adds more jokes.
Right. And I don't think you maybe needed like as many more jokes. Like none of them particularly like whacked me as like, oh, this is very terrible.
I think that because again, it's a thing of like being able to see the seams, right? But it's not that the jokes themselves are particularly bad compared to Snyder's jokes, which are also bad. The point is that they feel added in. You can
No,
tell which
I
ones were added.
disagree. I think they work so much better in Whedon's cut than they do in Snyder's. I think they feel so out of
The
place.
brunch joke doesn't strike you as added in and tacked on.
I mean, whatever. I no, like I think it's dumb, but I don't think it's like any more added on than anything else. Like,
I think I disagree with you there. I think a lot of the jokes, so I heard you talk to Fish, brunch jokes.
well, the brunch one, I almost allow it because it sort of goes into the like the world moves slower than I do, like people move, which seems to kind of be something that Barry like is like struggling with, like dealing with people interpersonally does seem genuinely hard for him in this movie, whereas it
Yeah, but
seems
it does
less.
that's not my point. It's just that I think the joke is not funny.
Okay, so it didn't have to be brunch. It could have been anything. I like where it leads, so I think it's fine. I think it added something like the last bit that it gets that it
I didn't
accumulates
really
in.
take that particular joke as being necessary for that arc. I felt it to be extraneous and bad and just really really bad. As with most of the jokes that were added. I mean, like I know that
Okay,
we'll both agree about
but
later on. There's
tonally, the fact that there were like any kind
any
of these
jokes at
like
all
jokey quippy quips in the Snyder version,
is more out of place
it
than
felt
the
so
Whedon.
wildly out of place. And I was like,
I,
who is this like bizarre creature that has wandered into this like grimdark
I'll
world?
take
Like,
that argument, and I agree with that. And there were some jokes that were in the Snyder Cut that I had assumed were Whedon exclusives that
mm-hmm.
weren't. So maybe the seams aren't as clear as I'm making them out to be. But
Yeah.
but I think that the fans certainly, or the narrative of the fans has been that, well, I knew that was a Whedon scene, and I knew it all along,
But
and
like I would
it
have
was
pegged
bad because the jokes were bad. Thirsty Lois Lane is bad. I feel itchy is bad.
I feel
Um,
itchy is bad. I agree.
right.
It's
But of
dumb.
course, right before I feel itchy is a joke that's in both versions, which is um, uh, you smell good. Did I not before?
No,
So
no, no, no,
again,
no.
it's like,
No, but that joke wasn't in the Snyder cut. She said you talked. She says you spoke. And he says, did I not before?
oh, I must have misheard because
Yeah.
I was being
It
prepped by
no, it
the terrible
became
Joss Whedon joke of "you smell good."
yeah, no, that one was very bad. That was a bad Whedon
Okay.
joke.
Oh, you spoke, did I not before? That's
Yeah.
interesting. All right. Well, we'll get there when we get there.
But like the snack hole line, that's in the Snyder cut. Like him being like,
Yeah.
"So what's your superpower, Batman?" And he's like, "I'm
I
rich."
have money.
Like
Mm.
it comes off much more congenially in the Whedon version than it does in the Snyder version, where it just is very Ayn Randian, where it's like, "I'm rich," and that's super awesome. Like it's just
I yeah. I think you have a point. I think you got a solid point there.
yeah.
Um,
That's all I'm saying.
that's all you're saying. Also, there's Rick and Morty on Barry's TV screens in both versions because product
Yeah.
synergy.
Oh, I will say Joss Whedon adding in the K-pop thing is a very Whedon thing, and I hate it, and it's very bad.
Um, then we have, what do we have next?
So
Is the
much.
next thing the meeting with all the people together in the world, meeting Cyborg on the street while you're meeting Barry? Is that what
Yeah,
happens next?
I think
Yeah.
so.
So I think in both versions, it's weird that Diane is the one who talks to Cyborg when Cyborg was tracking Batman because
Yeah.
Batman was tracking him.
It makes
And
more sense in like the Whedon version, I think.
I don't think it makes sense in either version.
It's fine.
I think
Well,
it's
no,
more or
wait,
less
no.
the same.
Here's why I think it makes more sense in the Whedon version because
Okay.
Cyborg physically sees Diana and Batman walking together.
Right,
And
but why
so
is he there in the first place? It doesn't matter that he sees them physically because he would have to see them on the computer
because
anyway.
he snuck onto the compound, and then he's like, okay.
And I think it's a totally lame thing where, like, if I wanted to kill you, I would have done it at the lake, which is always a really weird way to befriend someone, is to say, well, I didn't kill you.
I don't know. When you're dealing with superpowered people, I kind of get it.
And I just think it's very silly.
Yeah, I was fine. I didn't care.
But we've got to meet Cyborg, and then Cyborg tells Cyborg, like, look, you got to help us, and then he's like, I'm not going to help you because I'm a monster. And then it cuts to Victor's dad in the lab heating up a rock with X-rays.
But he like melts it or something.
He's
like...
heating up the inside so that it captures X-rays, because it's setting up how later in the movie they're going to do that with the box,
right?
So they can track it in a totally unnecessary subplot.
Yeah, but that's how he dies and redeems himself.
Right, but David? He could die any number of ways. He could die,
but he also didn't
in an explosion.
Die. He also didn't need to die in that way.
Right, but if your goal is to kill him, why does it have to be with an X-ray sci-fi machine that you made up with Ray Palmer's nephew? I don't know. Stupid. Dumb. So then we meet Commissioner Gordon, J. Jonah Jameson. I like J.K. Simmons. I don't know why he was cast in this movie to just have like 3 lines.
I mean, get a paycheck, J.K. Simmons. Like, live your best life.
Apparently he like bulked up like crazy too. Like he got super muscular for it.
Why?
You can't see it, so it's stupid.
It was stupid.
So Commissioner Gordon, we've introduced him, and he's going to gather all the superheroes. But before that, we've got to get the Atlantis mother box. And so Wolfie goes down there because he saw it on the crab radar that's where they're hiding it. And he steals it. There's a fight scene. There's way more blood. People get sliced in half and shit. So yeah. I guess fans like that. Whatever. And then that's when Cyborg finds his dad kidnapped and sees the bat signal. So Wolfie has 2 mother boxes. And so at this point in the movie is when he forms that big dome in Russia town. And then he calls Desaad again. And so we've got to redo this scene again. It's like we're just repeating the same scenes over and over again. And it's just so that he can tell him to go interrogate the people that they've captured and kidnapped in Gotham City, which he was already going to do.
Right. It's very weird and dumb.
So that's the end of part 3. And now we're in part 4, Change Machine, which I feel like, did I write that down wrong? Is it called Change Machine?
I have no idea.
Like you put in $10 and quarters come out? Like a change machine?
Like a change machine? I mean, Change Machine is in both of them. Yes?
Yeah, well, I thought he called it like a change engine or something. I don't know. So then we have this, all the superheroes are finally gathered together on the roof, and they're talking to Commissioner Gordon, and they're like, let's go save these kidnapped scientists. They're on an island. And then they go, and in both versions this happens. They show up on the island, and then Batman says, "Where are we, Alfred?" What do you mean? You're where you said you were going, to Stryker's Island.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Which is like Rikers, I guess.
I guess.
I don't know what it is. Weird. So, Aquaman, I think, is on his way, but everybody else is gathered together for this big action scene where they're fighting. They're going to fight Steppenwolf.
Yeah.
And the scene goes on for crazy long. There's a lot of weird inconsistencies between the 2 versions, but basically Batman is in his big nightcrawler robot thing that can climb walls and shoot guns, because we love Batman with guns.
Yep.
And Wonder Woman is like the main badass fighting the big bad. And we have that crazy slow-mo scene where the Flash touches her sword and then she grabs it in the air.
Yeah.
Things like that stuff.
I don't know. It's much more bearable in the Whedon cut to me.
I don't know that it's that much more bearable. I think it's a pretty.
It's just shorter.
Both.
I
mean, they're both pretty long. I think
no,
I find
but
them both pretty.
But I'm saying specifically the Flash touching the sword part takes like a full minute in the Snyder version.
Obviously, Snyder's super slow-mo is well documented. He will drag out a slow-mo for as long as humanly possible in all situations. A referee blowing a whistle, somebody tripping, anything. Doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Slow-mo as long as possible. But besides that, I think like the amount of things that happen in both fight scenes are, both excessive. Like this fight scene accomplishes virtually nothing. There's no character bits. There's nothing.
Well, but there is the character bit in the Whedon version where
it just feels so tacked on and like.
But whatever, it exists.
It exists.
It's there, and it doesn't in the Snyder version.
Yeah, whatever. I didn't notice any like weird jokes in the Whedon version for this stuff. I don't know if you noticed anything.
No, nothing like stood out to me.
But I did notice one particular joke, the Whedon classic of the Flash tackling Wonder Woman and landing on her lady parts, on her boobies.
It's like I felt like I was watching an anime. Like this
was an anime. Flash is my waifu.
It was like so corny and weird and like bad. even for the Whedon cut, that was tonally jarring. Like it was bizarre.
And just completely unnecessary.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so at this point, Aquaman shows up to save them because Cyborg, for some reason, decided to launch a missile in an underground tunnel. This is also in both versions. And immediately the place starts to flood. So,
which is the one? Missiles. Does Darkseid grab the missile in both of them?
Steppenwolf.
Yeah. Steppenwolf. Fuck, that's what I mean. Okay.
Yeah, he does it in both. Because it's badass. He grabs it in midair.
It is pretty cool. I don't know. I thought it was cool.
Whatever. I just thought it was dumb that they're shooting missiles down here when the whole cavern could collapse.
I agree.
Big mistake. Okay, so the next thing that happens in the Snyder Cut is what? Cyborg asks if his dad is okay. And that happens in both versions, but in the Whedon version, that is the last we see of him until the final montage. So that's the last scene that we have with Cyrus Stone.
Dang.
Awkward. In the Snyder Cut, he's a much more prominent part up until his death. Okay, so I guess he gets all three mother boxes, right? No, not at this point.
No, not yet.
Right. I guess at this point, this is when Steppenwolf goes back to his base because he's like a failure. And he touches the boxes, and then he like has a vision of the anti-life equation being buried in dirt somewhere on Earth. I mean, I'm sure you didn't understand what was going on, because I didn't.
Not really. Yeah.
And I know what the anti-life equation is.
Shit, David, don't tell anyone.
I mean, I don't know what it is. I know conceptually what it is.
Yeah, that's what you say. You gotta keep everyone off your scent.
And so then he says that to Darkseid, and Darkseid is like, "Are you telling me that the thing I've been looking for everywhere is on Earth?" And then Steppenwolf, he like takes off all his armor and he's like naked there, and he's like, "Yeah, dom me, Darkseid, dom me."
Yeah, and it's just like, do I even care if Superman kicks your ass now? Like, you're a baby. Who gives a shit?
Right. And then I guess the next thing that happens is Cyborg is like talking to the ship, and he's like, I'll fix it.
Yeah. And then he does, I guess.
Because now they're all recouping and they're like, we gotta deal with our failure, and it's like, well, you're a failure and they're a failure.
Well,
Oh,
isn't
I
this
guess the thing I
when
skipped was while Steppenwolf is interrogating all of the hostages in the Snyder cut, he does it with the crab thing that they set up with that earlier Atlantean scene. But in the Whedon cut, he just grabs them by the throat and says, "Tell me where it is." And then if they don't tell him immediately, he snaps their necks, which for my money is not a great interrogation technique.
No, it's not, but like it doesn't require a whole dumb mind reading crab setup.
But it doesn't make any sense. I don't know. I guess it's six of one, half a dozen stupids of another. But like the fact that he's like going up to people and being like, "Do you know where it is?" Snap. Like, what if the first guy knew and he just was pretending not to know?
Yeah, I don't know.
Mind crabs. But yeah. What happens next?
But with the mind crabs, so then like Victor's dad, Cyborg's dad, is just like, no, leave them alone. They don't know anything. And like, Steppenwolf's like holding him and he's like, so you're gonna tell me. And he's like, I'll never tell. And Steppenwolf is just like, bleh, and then sticks the mind crab on him. But like, I mean, didn't they just see with
It
the
was
mind
more
crab
yeah.
before that like
Right,
he
but
was
maybe
gonna
he has more mental fortitude. Maybe he can fight it off. But when that we
it,
don't see it. One thing we do see is Cyborg has these gross vestigial robot arm things coming out of his back, just going like, "Nee." He's got
yeah.
extra arms. It's very
Yeah.
gross. It makes me want to barf.
It was not great, but is that in both of them or is that just in
That's
one?
only in the Snyder cut. The
Okay.
Whedon cut does not have gross cyborg arms.
Yeah, I think I do prefer that.
So the next thing that happens is we have Cyborg explaining where the boxes come from, which is more extensive in the Snyder cut, where we actually see the Nazis discovering the box under a monastery.
Do we see Nazis?
Yeah,
Did I miss that? Oh God.
Nazis in World War II. And then the
Cool.
Pentagon, when we defeat the Nazis, gets the box and keeps it in the archive. And then Cyrus
Steals
finds
it
the
to bring
box
his
because he's
son.
like, I'm working on this alien spaceship. I'll get the box. Unnecessary backstory. He could have just had it
He could
for
have
no
just had
reason.
it. Yep.
Very stupid that we find all that out. Also, I noticed Aquaman is wearing a scarf. So did he wear that to swim?
Yeah,
Or
I
did
don't
he
know.
borrow a scarf from Batman?
Yes. I mean, Batman definitely has a scarf. Are you kidding me?
I'm not saying he doesn't, but why would he give it to Aquaman?
Because he's trying to woo him over to his side. He'll give him $30,000 and any scarf he wants if he fights with him, David? Like,
I see. uh, so in the Whedon cut, I think by this point we've introduced the Russian family in Russiaville, and
yes.
we've set up now the dome around Russiaville, or maybe that comes a little bit later. But we've established that Wolfie is living in Russiaville, and there's also families living in Russiaville. Whereas in the Snyder cut, it's an abandoned town because it's been Chernobyled.
Which wasn't clear to me though. Also in the Snyder cut.
Why? Yeah, there was a line of dialogue about it.
Oh, was there? I must have missed it.
Okay.
It was like it's so boring. I just missed it. Like
right. The weirdest possible scenes occur next. So I don't know. Do you want to take any of them? We're talking about the discussion of what to do with the box, and then the Martha scene, the Martha Lois scene from the Snyder Cut. Do you want to take either of those?
I mean, I just don't even know. where to begin.
All right,
It's
I'll
just
take it.
like
It's all right.
I'm sorry. There's so
No,
much.
it's all right. I'll take it because I have thoughts. The
Okay.
the scene where they're discussing like to resurrect Superman in the Snyder cut, they all just like they explain that the box can undo entropy and bring things back to life, and they
Yeah.
explain that for a really long time, and then everyone just simultaneously agrees to bring back Superman,
Yeah.
and literally Cyborg like projects a little hologram of Superman going, oh,
Yeah, it's
in
really corny.
celebration of their mutual agreement. Now, I don't know if it's better or worse because it makes more sense that they would argue about it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also an unnecessary conflict that just gets in the way of the plot moving forward. So,
but like, for how long? It doesn't even get in the way for that long, especially
I
when you're
know, but that makes it even
considering.
more extraneous. Like you could just take it out and nothing's lost.
I don't
I don't
know.
know. There's something that's kind of
Well, no,
offensive to me
clearly.
about them arguing, no, we can't bring Superman back. Yes, we can bring Superman back. No, we can't. Yes, we can. Repeat. It bothers me a lot in the Whedon cut.
Okay. It did
That's all
not
I'm
bother
saying.
me because, again, by this point
I think
in
that's totally reasonable.
let me
To
just say,
disagree.
like, at this point in the Snyder cut, we are 2 hours in, maybe already at this point.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I think probably. Yeah, 2 hours.
And we're only an hour in to the, so I
Right. I
still
mean, I
have
think it's forgivable, but I just think
patience to spare. Like, if we have to pick one, the Whedon, please. Like, sure.
I just think it's a dumb conflict because it's like we know they're gonna bring Superman back. It was in the trailers.
I mean, duh, they're gonna
It's
bring Superman
unnecessary.
back. I mean, duh, they're gonna bring Superman back. Of course,
Oh,
there's
and this
gonna
is
be
exactly what you said you
someone.
didn't like about so Wonder Woman leaves and then comes back like 5 minutes
Wait, does
later.
she?
Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
So silly,
Damn,
very silly.
that was
But then
silly.
we have probably the most baffling scene in the Snyder Cut, I would say, which is Martha Martha Kent shows up to Lois's house, and we have basically the same scene that we had earlier in the office, but like you said, more focused on how the loss of Clark totally broke Lois's soul.
Right, and
Uh,
like the desaturated color palette is just so
it's I
overbearing
think there's more
here.
pathos to it, which
Ugh.
I personally enjoy. But
It's
that
so
pathos,
Hallmark.
it's a little Hallmark, but the pathos to me is undercut so much and overshadowed so much by Martha leaving and then her eyes glowing red as she shapeshifts into the Martian Manhunter.
It's John John, baby.
It's so good in its stupidity. And also he doesn't like look like anything. Like if you didn't
No.
know who the Martian Manhunter was, like he doesn't
Well,
look like a hero or like a, he doesn't. Yeah, he's got the X, he's got the cape, he's got the green, he's got everything, but the color is a little off because the
yeah.
color's always off, and so it's hard to tell exactly who he is, and he hasn't been set up in any of the other media at all.
Well,
And
no, but then he turns into the captain, the military guy, right? And
right,
then you're
but
like,
then that's
oh, it's
also
the
confusing.
military
So
guy.
was he the military guy from Batman v Superman the whole time?
That's what you assume, right?
But that's why it doesn't make any
Don't
sense.
know. It
And
doesn't.
that's how he knows Lois. But but why would he then shapeshift into Martha? Was he Martha the whole time? Is that why, Ma and Pa Kent didn't have any kids before Clark?
Oh my god.
It's just wild. It's one of the wildest decisions I've ever seen. And it's to set up a movie that will never probably happen now.
Never, ever,
Or at
ever.
least I don't know if it will. Okay, and then we have the resurrecting Superman scene. But before that, we have part 5, All the King's Men. And we have 2 different grave robbing scenes. Any preference?
I mean, I like
Different jokey jokes.
the is the Whedon one the one that doesn't objectify Wonder Woman, or is that the Snyder one? Because in one of them he's like,
I will lay it out right now. The Snyder
okay,
Cut. The Snyder Cut, it's focused on Wonder Woman and Aquaman, and they have a conversation that's sort of like the scene from Lord of the Rings where the elf and the dwarf are like, I
never thought I'd die
side
yeah,
by side with an Atlantean. So they do that
right.
weird bit.
And it's fine. It's whatever.
It's fine. It's extraneous. It means nothing.
Yeah.
And then they cut to Barry and Cyborg, and Barry says, I can dig this out in like a second, but I feel like it would be sacrilegious. And then Cyborg's like, that's dumb. And then the Flash is like, do you think that Wonder Woman would date a younger man? And
yeah,
like, she's like 1,000 years old. Every man is a younger man.
Yeah.
And that's the Snyder Cut with the weird jokey jokes.
Yeah.
And then in the Joss Whedon cut, it feels very shoehorned in, even though it's a scene that already existed. It's weird. It feels like they're adding in dialogue, even though it's the same amount of, it's less dialogue. Anyway, the point being, it's a weird scene where they're talking about how they're the accidents. Like, I was struck by lightning. You died in an explosion, not a car crash for whatever reason.
Sure.
That's the same. We're not born with superpowers. We got them elsewhere. So now we have a bond. And then Joss Whedon makes a weird joke where he's like, bump it. Oh, sorry, I can't. It's racially charged. As if bumping it has had any like racial connotation for the last like 10 years.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess it has a racial connotation as a history.
Yes.
But I mean, everyone bumps it. No one doesn't bump it.
Yeah. No, it's very weird. It's very out of place. I don't think I prefer it to like the Wonder Woman joke. I just hate both of them.
Hate them both. I would cut both of them. But the point was in the Snyder Cut, we have also scenes of Cyborg digging up his mother's grave or his own grave to get the box. So there's an excessive amount of grave digging in the Snyder Cut.
I don't also understand why he was just like, I'm gonna go bury this in my mom's grave.
Because it's not safe here because it's glowing and vibrating.
But why is it more safe there than anywhere else?
Because it's underground. They won't be able to find it. Bless you. I don't know. I'll buy that. I just think it's an excessive number of grave digging scenes.
I agree.
They dig up Superman's body and they go to sneak into the thing. One of the scenes takes much longer than the other one. I'll give you two. I'll give you two guesses which one.
Yeah.
We have more extensive scenes of inside Star Labs where Cyrus sees Cyborg breaking in with Superman's body, and he's like, okay, I'll clear out the rest of the scientists who weren't scared off by the alarm. So it's like a recognition thing, but it's not really necessary.
No.
Go down, they do a baptism in Zod's ship, and then
both of them have the shot, which is a Zack Snyder thing. So I guess Whedon was just working with what he had.
Yeah.
But like where, there's the picture of his dad. Yeah. And it falls into the golden goo, and it's very weird and overdramatic.
It's bizarre. It's overdramatic. But the fact that it looks so much like a baptism that you're like dunking his body under, and it's a guy with a huge beard. He's like John the Baptist. You know? It's like it's so over the symbology. And then my brother pointed out that Flash does the touch of creation.
Oh yeah.
And the religious imagery is so overt, and that's a very Snydery thing. But of course, it had to carry over into the Whedon one. What didn't carry over into the Whedon one is Cyborg gets a vision of the future if he resurrects Superman, and it includes Wonder Woman dead and her body being cremated ceremonially, and Darkseid showing up and shooting his Omega laser beams at all the Atlanteans.
Right.
And this is all just foreshadowing for a future movie, I guess, which they already did in Batman v Superman, and I hated it then. That there's so much foreshadowing of future movies instead of focusing on the movie that you have.
Right. There's like no plot for this movie. It's all just set up for something later.
My brother only showed up because he liked the apocalypse looking scenes at the end of the trailer. That was why he wanted to watch with me. And then he found out that was just a post-credit scene that was a dream sequence foreshadowing a future movie. So it's dumb. It's a dumb thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've resurrected this thing. Meanwhile, we're also cutting to Lois Lane going and visiting the memorial like she does every day and giving the coffee to the guy, and so at least that we're explaining why she's there, because in the Whedon cut she's not already there. She shows up because Alfred sends like a car to pick her up that we don't see, so that when Batman says, "We're bringing in the big gun," Alfred is organizing a drop-off of Lois Lane.
Yeah.
So that's the difference, is she shows up of her own free will in the Snyder Cut, but it requires more setup because you have to set it up.
Yeah. I don't hate it in the Whedon cut. Like, it's fine.
No, I think it's weird that he keeps calling her the big gun.
Sure, I'll agree with you there.
And I think it's a little bit less dramatic to think that it was his plan to have her show up rather than it being like a lucky break for them. But I don't think it makes a huge difference. Okay, so then the next thing that we have is the giant laser to show that Superman has been resurrected, and then the box just flies up, and this is in both versions, just lands on a car. Now in the Snyder version, instead of just being left there on that car for like 20 minutes, we have Cyrus grabs it and takes it to go hide. So I liked that change.
Sure.
I mean, it costs nothing. It costs you no time to just explain, wait, where's the box? You just lose track of the box in the Whedon version, I think.
Yeah, which is, I don't care about the box. It's a MacGuffin anyway.
But one thing I think is silly in the Snyder version is all of our focus on this cop that's Lois's friend.
Oh my gosh.
Is he safe? Is he safe from Superman? And he just keeps hanging out there instead of running away because, he's on duty. He's got to protect, serve and protect.
Yep. That's it.
Okay, so this is like a big difference, I think, in these scenes, is the confrontation between Superman and Batman once we realize that Superman is evil. Because up to that point, up to the confrontation between Superman and Batman, it's almost the same scene, right?
Yeah, it's pretty much identical.
Right, but that's up until the confrontation between Superman and Batman, where we then have the super close-up on his CGI lips in the Whedon version. They've covered up his mustache.
I don't know. I'm sure it's noticeable. I was not paying enough attention to notice it.
I understand that. I don't think that it would have bothered people as much if it hadn't been reported on as much. I think one of the biggest failures of the Whedon cut, the theatrical cut, was the PR was terrible for it. They did nothing to cover up all the studio meddling and make it seem like a cohesive product. But anyway. He also does some weird things where he's like talking. Like, I'm pretty sure in the Snyder Cut, he doesn't talk at all during that whole thing. Did you hear him saying anything?
Yeah. No, he doesn't. And then that's why Lois has the line later that's like, you spoke. Yeah,
because that's the first time he speaks. But that makes a lot more sense to me, because it's like he's resurrected. He's almost like an animal.
Right, he's the tabula rasa,
his memories haven't come back yet, and he's just reacting to danger. He senses danger, and he can't control his powers. Even he can, he can't control his X-ray vision. But in this one, he's like in the Whedon cut, he's like evil. He's
Yeah.
has no soul or something.
Yeah,
Because he
I
goes
don't
up to
know.
Batman and he's like, "Do you bleed?
Oh my
You won't
God.
let me die."
Here's the thing. It was so dramatic though. I'm like, this seems like it would have been in the Snyder cut. Like,
I know, but it's not. It's like he's
but it's
trying to
not.
guess what Snyder would do, but Snyder already did a movie.
Right. Like, it's
Bizarre.
very strange.
Okay, but yeah, I think that's one of the worst changes that Whedon made. Because it's also just an in-joke reference to to a different movie. I did have a vision once that Joss Whedon would do a theatrical cut of Batman v Superman, where when Batman says, "Do you bleed?" Superman then goes, "Red, white, and blue, brother."
Oh my
and then
God.
gives him a bro hug.
America. Wow.
That was my vision of it, but I guess that's not what he saw. But anyway.
Oh man. Oh man.
Okay, I think that takes us almost to part 6. But first we have the scene where Cyrus dies, where he takes the box into his lab to try and blast it with an X-ray. You think, I think at the moment, you're supposed to think that he's trying to destroy the box.
Yeah.
But he's not. He's marking it with an X-ray tag. But in order to do it, he has to lock himself in a glass cage of emotion.
But he doesn't have to. He could have stepped outside of the glass cage.
But he chooses to, and he shoots himself with a laser, and it seems to just kind of disintegrate him. And
yeah,
Cyborg is like, no.
He melts, and it's real gross.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's okay to kill him. I just think it's a dumb way to kill him. I know that you don't like that he dies.
I mean, I think that it is both a dumb way to kill him, and it's dumb that he dies. But I just think parental deaths are overdone and boring.
And it feels really pointless at the moment, because then Wolfie gets the box, and then he's got all 3 boxes, and it's like, oh, well, he dies in one version, doesn't die in the other version. It seems like everything's the same.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, he has to track it with the X-rays. But knowing that in the Whedon version, he just tracks it because he can sense its energy. But then the question then has to get raised, well, why doesn't he track the other 2 boxes the same way? It becomes complicated.
Right, but like they weren't trying to get the other 2 boxes before this.
Right, but why weren't they? It's like, well, they were like, okay, well, we have this one box. We're going to use it to resurrect Superman. Wait, why don't we try and go find the other 2 boxes to stop him from activating them, or maybe try and steal
because
them
they
back?
Can't do it without Superman, David.
Okay, whatever. I think the whole thing of resurrecting Superman is like a weird, just we have to do this because people want to see Superman.
Jesus.
Because Jesus. So yeah, I mean, they're both really messy movies. I don't think there's anyone who's saying that they're not.
Sure, I agree with you.
Okay,
yeah, so
Dad
then
dies. We've got part 6, Something Darker, and we have the 2 different Smallville scenes where Superman, having been calmed by the Beast being calmed by the beauty that is Lois Lane, they fly off to their honeymoon suite in Smallville.
Yeah.
And where the house is being foreclosed.
But also in both versions, Lois has like pre-called. Oh no, that happens in like an after scene. Never mind. Objection rescinded. I was gonna be like, when did Lois call Martha? They just flew there, but they go in the house and like get him a shirt and whatever. So
yeah, fine. They go in the house and they get a shirt, and then there's like a 6-second scene of just panning out of the house over to a swing, because that was really important to include. Very artsy. What does the swing represent, Hannah?
It represents what I wish I was doing instead of watching this movie.
Right. So because they don't know where Superman went, but at least they nullified him, now they're like, we have to go stop Steppenwolf, even though we could have done that before, but we wanted to resurrect Superman first anyway, for no reason. So this is kind of like the deal in both movies is like they just kind of forget about Superman for a minute. We're gonna go. Uh,
Yeah.
and this brings us into the climax of the film, right? Which goes on forever
Yes.
in both
So,
versions.
but way more in Snyder.
Absolutely, way more in Snyder, but I think takes up like almost like the same proportion of the movie in both films.
I would say you're probably correct about that.
Not quite. I think there's definitely more movie to climax in the Snyder cut, but still just excessively long in both for the runtime.
I guess, yeah. I don't know. By the
They
like
fly
again,
over.
like
Batman's driving around in his Batmobile, shooting bugs. They take down the dome. They just run
yeah.
around fighting bugs for like 20
But
minutes.
isn't there like a big difference in what like Barry's task is in
Yes.
Snyder versus Whedon?
Yeah. Do you want to explicate that?
Right. So like in the Snyder version, so like there's like this whole like Flash's whole thing is that, you know, he's got the rule about if he goes close to light, like close to the speed of light or past the speed of light, you know, time gets wonky and weird and he like messes
Yeah.
with things.
Right.
Which we've already seen him break the rule once with resurrecting Superman, which doesn't happen
Yeah.
in the Whedon version. He just
Right.
does it the first time.
Right. This is also apparently a big fan thing that they like that he does things with time because fans are stupid. I've said it before, I'll say it again. People who like things are dumb, and people who don't like things are smart.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
Not true. I'm messing with you, but I don't like just the obsession with anything with time travel or time dilation is good.
I mean, I agree. I think there are fun Flash stories that happen because of like time dilation and whatever. I think
Yeah,
it's entirely extraneous to the movie at hand,
yeah.
and did not need to be here.
I mean,
But yeah,
I
so
thought what was going to happen was that the three boxes were going to get put together, they would completely fail, and then we'd get the post-apocalypse scene from the trailer with the Joker in it, and then he
right,
would time travel back from that to the
right,
point in the movie where he saves them. So if you
but
reordered that, that might be like a cool sort of thing, but it would
right.
be time consuming. But
It would be time consuming, but we're at 4 hours already. Consume some time. Whatever, you know?
yeah,
Like
but yeah, in the Snyder version, he's got to touch the box again. He's got to do another Michelangelo creation
zappy.
of man thing, creation of Adam thing.
Right. But he's
And
got to go super fast and they have to take down
right,
the shield and like you know, he's got to time it perfectly. And of
right,
course his timing gets messed up cuz he gets shot in the side, which honestly makes more sense in the Snyder version than seeing him get shot in the side randomly in the Whedon version. Like that
right. It just means nothing
it
in the Whedon
it
version.
just didn't need to happen in the Whedon version.
Yeah,
Like I don't know.
but yeah, the Flash's whole thing in the Whedon version is he's got to save that Russian family that we've connected to so much throughout the film.
Yeah. Though I do like I mean, here's the thing. Do you like Superman in the Snyder version or the Whedon version, David?
No.
No, in both. Okay. See, I kind of liked the Superman in the Whedon version. I did not
Because he's a
like.
little more Don, like the 70s Superman kind of
Sure.
cheesy, the golden boy. He's
Yeah.
the
But
he's the
like,
Boy Scout. He saves a whole building full of people.
right, which like you like I don't know. That's a fun dynamic. That's why it exists in media, is because like,
Yeah, I'm not a big Superman fan on a good day, I think. So
but I
he's a
think
great
that
person to ask.
Superman, but here's the thing. I think that Superman at least has like a little bit of a personality, and like the Zack Snyder one is just like bleh, punch, bleh,
I think the
punch.
I think the forcing him to have a personality, like because Henry Cavill is not a great actor and can't really convey
I think he did fine.
character. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. And I almost prefer him to be a silent brooding god in just the fact that at least it's easier to act because he doesn't have to do anything.
I don't know. I thought it was fine.
I liked. He's just a punch guy.
I liked the competitiveness between the Flash and Superman. Like, I think it's fun.
Nothing for me, but I grant it.
But I liked that in like the animated series and like Justice League growing up, you know, like that they have the whole episode where they race around the world or whatever. And, you know, it's fun. Like, why not? I'm watching this movie for fun. Put fun in. Thank you.
Commenting on some of the differences, Aquaman in both versions, he says Yahoo and my man, but only in one version does he say Yaya. In kind of a southern sort of style, and that is the Whedon version. So I'm just keeping track of how southern our country boy is, how broy he is, how bro country he is. Anyway,
it's fine. I will say in the
plays a big alarm from the first scene. Remember that?
Yeah.
The alarm attracts bugs, whereas in the Snyder Cut, bugs are attracted to killing Batman.
Yes.
Which makes just as much sense. So it was an unnecessary addition. But anyway, what were you saying?
Well, I was also going to say, we haven't mentioned that the like parademons, the bugs in the Whedon version, have like this weird sticky green ooze on them that they like emit for some reason. And like, is their blood?
They ooze in the Whedon version and the Snyder version, right?
No, in the Snyder version, there is no green icky ooze. It's like it's very cartoonish in the Whedon version, and I totally am with people who are like, "What the fuck is this?"
Were there two different kinds of bugs in the Snyder version? Did you notice that like at one point like the design like totally changes?
In the Whedon version?
No, in the Snyder version.
In the Snyder version?
Like in one scene they look one way, and another scene they look a different way. Am I crazy?
No.
Right, I mean, you might look it up later.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that one.
I feel like there was one scene where they have like weird bug legs, and then one scene where they have like human legs and arms. And I don't know. Maybe they're supposed to be like different species transformed into parademons, because they said parademons are made out of dead guy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the final conflict. We separate the boxes, right? And then we got to kill Steppenwolf in both versions.
Yeah.
And then he just kind of generically dies and explodes in the Whedon version.
No, he gets like all attacked because he's getting his ass kicked by the Justice League.
Right.
And so the parademons smell fear. And so they smell his fear,
so dumb,
and they feed on their master.
In the Whedon version. Oh, it's so stupid. But they're both stupid. They're both stupid because
it's stupid, but I liked it. I don't know. I was he's bringing it back.
I think that's fine. And then in the Snyder version, they just fucking decapitate him because it's the Snyder version.
I will say, it is a dope ass moment for Wonder Woman. Just like,
it's dope, and the fact that it's completely like they don't even question it. They don't even question it. Superman, his big cry when he snapped Zod's neck, or Batman feeling really guilty for getting Superman killed, not related to the killing and decapitating this random guy.
Yes, because David, he's bad, first of all. And second of all, Superman's wearing black now. He's like edgy.
Right, well, that's from the comics. That's
yeah, but like it's like he's like dark Superman. He's not like a good boy anymore.
He's a good guy.
He's good. He's like good, but he's a good guy, but he's a bad boy.
I like it. Yeah, weird differences, but ultimately I think both climaxes equally disappointing and boring.
I don't know. They're fine. This was honestly a more exciting part of the movie than most of it for me in the Snyder version.
Climax to me is supposed to be really good. And I think for the majority of the decade, the last decade, all of our big blockbusters have had really piss poor climaxes. I think the
Okay.
Avengers movies climaxes are terrible. I think this is terrible. Every big a million people versus a bunch of drones, I find them obnoxious. They're so not character based. They're not. They're so not plot interesting. They're just punch 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 punch.
But like it's a comic book. They want the punch punch
I know,
punch.
but there are comic book movies where the climax is not punch punch punch, but it's learning to work together and blah blah blah. I mean, I still think that one of the best superhero movies that has come out while I've been alive is The Incredibles, where they fight a big robot, yes, but they do it in interesting ways.
That's true. That's fair.
So I'm just trying to
I
hold
will
them to
give you-
higher standard. That's all.
Holding you to the standards that The Incredibles set.
To incredible standards. Okay, so I mean, the only thing that I think maybe puts the Snyder Cut fight scene over the top is the Barry time travel and then saying, "Dad, I was one of the greats.
I was one of the best."
I was a contender." I think that's cute. I think it's a good end to.
Oh,
his
I
arc.
hate it. It's dumb.
I think it's fine.
Take it and go home.
And then we see Darkseid, who kick stops his rolling head
and then crushes it, but then crushes it.
Yeah,
like doesn't give a shit, you know.
Right. Well, that's the whole thing about simps is they'll never get it. They'll never get domed by Darkseid the daddy. Doesn't happen. And then the movie just sort of ends with a big pose where posing.
But
in
it's
the
really
cut, there's flowers grow.
Yeah, the Whedon cut, the flowers are terrible, and the CGI is very bad.
I like the flowers.
I thought that was the worst CGI in the whole movie. It may be bad
CGI. Yeah.
It was
probably
really
a
bad.
Last minute effect. So then the epilogue, which is only in the.
Well, wait. I gotta say, the Snyder posing, I did not like. I thought it was very dumb. It's like
it's for the fans. Fans like it.
That's fine. That's fair.
Yep. But I agree with you. The epilogue in the Whedon cut, we have 2 post-credit scenes. We have I'm putting a team together of bad guys. Mm-hmm. Luthor was not in prison. It was some other bald guy. And then he's putting together a team of bad men. And then in the Snyder cut, we have that same scene, but then he's like, "Hey, Deathstroke," who nobody in the audience knows who Deathstroke is.
I didn't know who Deathstroke was.
I know you do.
Here's the thing. People who watch Teen Titans know, and people who watch the Arrowverse know. So
that's a good point. I didn't think of the Arrowverse, but my dad did not know who that was and was like, "Is that Deadpool?" You know, I assume that's what half the country. I assume that's what half the country will say is, "What is it? Is that Deadpool?"
Yeah.
But then he's like, "Batman's name is Bruce Wayne," and Deadpool's like, Deathstroke is like, And so that's going to be the next movie that will never come out. And then the other next movie that will never come out, which is only in the Snyder Cut, is Joker scene.
It's so dumb.
I loved it. In its stupidness. I mean,
it went on for so
long. It went on forever. Just the longer it goes, the more ridiculous it is. The more I was cracking up. I thought it was insane.
And just like the camera work specifically when it was on the Joker.
Shaky cam. Like literally it's like a close up in shaky cam with dust particles going in front of the screen.
Right, but then there's like blurring effects happening too, and you're just
and light is hitting the lens. There's lens flares. It's crazy. One of the wildest framings I've ever seen.
I felt like I was drunk, but only during those shots. you know.
Yeah. And so then they established that, all right, it's the future. There's no explanation for why we're in the future. Batman is, and also this is like a scene that was done in Batman v Superman, so I'm just explaining that for context for you, that he had a dream sequence identical to this. but
Oh.
without all of the other superheroes. It was just him
Oh,
and Superman and the
yes, wait.
Parademons.
There is also one line earlier in the movie that's like, hey, I like Wonder Woman walks up to Batman, who's just like sitting there like, oh, and she's like, what is it, Bruce? And he's like, I just had the strangest sensation. Like Barry Allen just said that Lois is the key. And it's like, and it comes out of nowhere. It's not relevant to anything. The only thing it's relevant to is the fact that there's this alternate timeline that has been created. And like,
That was in this movie?
yes, that's in
Because
the
they did it
fucking
also in Batman v Superman, except for. Oh, wow. This is so wild. I don't understand any of this. But
It
anyway,
doesn't make any sense.
I totally missed that scene. You'll have to give me a
It's in,
timestamp later.
yeah, it's in the Snyder Cut though. I guarantee you. Because I was like,
Okay.
okay, so Lois is the key, but like this was after they had already revived Superman. So I was kind of like,
Yeah.
okay, so like we're fine though.
It's
like,
the key because in this future timeline that may be an alternate timeline, but we don't know, Lois dies and Superman becomes evil and joins
Yeah.
Darkseid, who then takes over the Earth and then kills Aquaman and Wonder Woman. But Flash is okay. Mira has replaced Aquaman on the team, which I'm sure
Cyborg
all the
is
people
there.
who hate Amber Heard will be very upset if that comes to pass. Deathstroke has joined them, and then Papa Joker's on the team.
Wait, no, but then there's also like another. No. The Flash isn't still alive. It's a
No, the
different
Flash is still
Flash.
there. No, it's not
a
different. It's not
it's
different.
not.
Same guy. Same guy.
It was still
And
Ezra Miller.
I
It
think he
really
might have
looked like
CGI face.
It really looked like Sebastian Stan.
Yeah, I think he's like gridded up, and I think he might have a CGI face. But
Okay.
but yeah, it's still Ezra Miller, and Cyborg is there as well, with like a weird hunchback, because he's got a gun on his back, but
Yeah.
he hides it. Anyway, the Joker. The Joker is great. I love Jared Leto Joker. He's so campy. He's so not like he's so not a good actor. He's like not Heath Ledger at all. But it's great because he's able to just do goofy shit that Heath Ledger maybe couldn't even get away with, like saying, "I'm your best friend, Batman. I give you a reach around."
It's
He's
just
crazy.
so dumb
I love him.
and uncomfortable, and it just went on for so long, and then Superman shows up and he's evil, and like that's it.
And that's it.
Bruce Wayne saves the family farm. He buys back the bank that took Martha's house in both epilogues, and Clark's like, "Thanks, buddy."
Yep. And then finally, we have the Martian Manhunter showing up and saying,
David, this is my favorite scene. This is my favorite scene because there is a moment where Bruce and the Martian Manhunter are just like, okay, so you'll join my team? Cool. What's your name? And he's like, yeah, I'll join your team.
There are some who call me.
But then there is
Martian Manhunter.
No, David. There is 6 full seconds of silence. I want both of us to not talk for 6 seconds. Okay? 1, 2, 3.
You know,
that was a long time. That was a long time. Like, and then he's like, "Oh, by the way, I'm the Martian Manhunter." Like, it's so awkward. Like, why?
Yeah. I don't know. And why, you know, couldn't they CGI him to look not like he was so skinny, like he lost all that weight?
What?
Bruce, he's so skinny in that scene. He looks about 100 pounds lighter.
Yeah, whatever. It's fine.
Yeah. So that's the end. And then in the Whedon cut, you have one more post-credit scene where Superman and the Flash race.
Yeah.
It's a reference. I get it.
It's
not
cute.
Funny.
I don't know. I thought it was cute.
It's cute. It's whatever. It's just
it.
not like, you know, they're not doing anything with it. They're literally just, here's something you might remember.
Right, but like also, I mean, they're not doing anything with all the team posing. Like,
No, I agree. I agree.
here's the thing.
Um,
I have so much patience for all of the bullshit, like it doesn't really add anything but doesn't hurt anything stuff that Joss Whedon does, because his movie is a watchable length, and I have no patience for it with Zack Snyder because he made me
I
sit
think
there
that's
for 4
totally
hours
legitimate.
and it
I
was
think it
very
makes total
boring.
sense. So we've gone on for a pretty long time now. This is one of our longer pods, I think.
Yup, it's 2.5 hours.
I say we just wrap it and leave it
Yeah.
on an unsatisfying conclusion, much like both of these films.
To be continued? Never.
Potentially in the longer cut, the Snyder Cut's coming out. So we didn't really reach any conclusions, but I think that's fine. I think it's all about the experience with these. It's all about the
Yeah.
hype. These, whether this movie makes money or not, it's succeeded in driving traffic to HBO Max and driving
Yes.
controversy and getting people to write think pieces about it. And so we're just adding to that. We can't control it. We can't tell
Yeah.
you this is bad and therefore a failure. This is bad and therefore a success.
Right.
And also I had a lot of fun. So in that
Yeah.
way, it's not bad. It's in fact good. And I love it.
I mean, I will enjoy this experience for the fact that it made me enjoy one. I watched a Justice League movie and enjoyed it, so that
Yeah.
was good. Even if
One
it
of them you enjoyed, and then the other one you
I,
enjoyed hating.
maybe not, but I certainly did it, and I'm proud of my accomplishment.
And I just enjoyed all of it. I thought it was an
I'm
insane
glad.
fucking experience to watch both of these. All right. Catch y'all later. We're going to have more Talking Tropes coming for you. We're going to have more Standing Stanley Tucci.
Our
You know you love
Lord.
us. Catch you on the flippity flip.
Bye.
Okay. And my camera is now literally out of batteries.
Oh my God.
It has 1 minute left, it says.
Jeez.